wife's been so sensitive today. Okay, so again, this and this are the same thing. We're dividing by monomial because it's only one term. Okay, you can rewrite it to where you separate the terms and they all have the same denominator. So then you can just simplify like we learned before breaks. Well, what's 3 divided by 3? There's just 1, kind of cancels. Now, where are there more A's, top or bottom? Top. And what's the rule with dividing letters with exponents? Subtract. So 2 minus 1 is? 1, so we have A. Do you have to put the 1? No. And then don't the C's also cancel? So you can put a 1 in front of your A, but you don't have to, so you just have A. I'm going to bring down my plus sign. What's 6 divided by 3?
2.
2. Where are there more A's?
On top.
Okay, and 3 minus 1 is?
2.
2. Where are there more C's?
On top.
Top. 2 minus 1 is 1, so there's your second term. Plus, what's 18 divided by 3?
6.
And your A and your C cancel. Now, one good conversation to have from before break is which term has the highest degree?
Is it the 2?
It's this one.
Yeah, 2.
Okay, and what is the degree of that term? 3, because remember you add your exponents. 2 plus technically 1, so this is a third degree. So technically you're supposed to write these in highest to lowest degree, so this term should come first. So 2A squared C plus A plus 6, because this is a degree of 1 and this is a degree of 0. So there's your answer. Okay, so I want y'all to start number 2 while I take attendance really fast. Okay, hello. So we're going to do the exact same thing here. However, if you want to be a little lazy and not rewrite it by every time, you can literally just rewrite your denominator, okay, for each term. It's not quite centered right here, but it is what it is. What's 12 divided by 6? 2. And what am I left with after that? X to the 7th power.
And y to the 3rd.
Y to the 3rd plus what?
Plus
8.
8. And then that's x to the 3rd power.
X to the 3rd power.
And then y to the 2nd power.
Y squared. Now, 9 over 6, does that give you a pretty number? No, and if I start with a fraction, I should end with a fraction also if it's not pretty. So we're going to leave it as a fraction. Okay, if you're unsure, you can come here, alpha y equals enter, 9 over 6. So it simplifies to 3 over 2. Where are there more x's?
3 over 2,
Top. So 3 minus 2 is 1x left, and then 2 minus 1 is 1y left. And then another minus sign. What's 18 divided by 6? 3. And where are there more x's?
The bottom.
So 2 minus 1 is 1, and the y's cancel. So here's your answer.
But do you have to put it in the degree formula?
Huh?
Like which one goes first? Or something?
This is the in right order. So 7 plus 3 is 10, 3 plus 2 is 5, 1 plus 1 is 2, and this is negative 1. Okay, any questions so far? Okay, so we like those. Those are simple. The next ones are not the simple ones. So who remembers doing long division? Okay, I remember what that looks like a little bit. So long division, we're going to do an example up in the top corner. So 2.
Oh, okay, I remember.
Like this. Okay, so then you kind of divide, like 3 divided by 2. Well, 2 goes in there one time, but not pretty, right? So what's 1 times 2? 2. And then what do? Subtract to find the remainder, right? And what's 3 minus 2? 1. Then what do?
3 divided by 9.
Bring down the 9. Now, 2 goes into 19 how many times?
2.
Actually, 9 times.
9 times?
9 times 2 is?
18.
18.
Oh, that's what I meant.
Again, we subtract. Gives me 1. Bring down my 6 because 2 doesn't go into 1. It goes in there 8 times. 8 times 2 is 16. We subtract and we get a remainder of 0. So 198 is our answer, right? Okay, well, we're about to do something very, 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 very similar, except with this. Okay? So don't let it super stress you out. Now, the big thing to remember here you cannot be missing any degrees, and I'm going to explain what that means. So kind of like we just talked about on the top, like how they're supposed to go in highest degree to lowest degree. When you're dividing with long division, these types of problems, you have to make sure you have every degree. So this is a degree of what?
2.
2. This is a degree of?
1.
And this is a degree of?
4.
Was anything missing? 0. 3 or 2, 1, 0. Nothing was missing, right? In between? No, so we're good. This is a degree of 1. This is a degree of 0. Nothing's missing. We're good. So this problem, not worried about it. But if you look here in the denominator, you always check top and bottom. It could be on either one. See how this is 2x squared? That's a degree of 2. And then it's a degree of 0. What degree is it missing? A degree of 1. Okay, so that's what I mean by that. Okay, so we'll talk about that problem in a second, but I just want you to know that's what that means. So you should always check to make sure you have all the degrees first. Okay, so we're going to get started on this one. I learned when I was younger, if you don't ever remember which one goes in the house and which one goes outside. Okay, the cowboy rides the horse, right? Cowboy's on top, horse is on bottom. Horse stays outside. Cowboy goes inside. I remember that from like, what, 3rd grade, 4th grade? I don't know. When do you learn long division? Somewhere in there?
Yes. I was 2nd grade.
I don't think it's 2nd grade. Sadie just started learning division. She's in 3rd grade. But they're more in the aspect of like, you know, where you like circle things to figure out how many times it goes into it. Like they're still in the picture side, not quite the long division side.
Like 4th grade?
Yeah, I think it's somewhere between 3rd and 4th, yeah.
No, like, remember the box?
Oh, the window pane?
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Not ready for all that. Okay. Okay, so we're going to pay attention here, here, and here. Okay? So you can think about this 2 ways. You can think about it as multiplication or as division. Okay, you can think x times what gives you x squared?
2.
No. X times x. So this would be x, right? X times x is x squared. Or you think it of as division. So you would take what's inside, x squared, divided by what's on outside. Well, wouldn't that just simplify? 2 minus 1 is just x. So that's what would go there. So whichever method you like better. I'm going to do this one with division, and I'll do this one with multiplication. You can play whichever way you like is I'm down with. Yes? Okay, so now we multiply, right? Once we figured out what went on top, didn't we multiply? Okay, so x times x is x squared. And I have to multiply the whole divisor, so x times 3 is 3x. What did we do after that?
What? How do you get 3?
X times 3.
Oh, you had to use the top?
Not yet. Before we bring down the next one, what did we have to do? We had to subtract to find our remainder, right? So I'm going to subtract, but you have to subtract both terms. So see how they both became negative even though we're both positive when I multiplied? So now I'm going to subtract. This zeroes out. That term should always zero out, the first one. If it doesn't, that means we made a mistake somewhere, okay? So if it doesn't zero out, stop and double check your work. Now what's negative 5x minus 3x?
Negative
8x.
8x?
Be careful.
Oh, because
If I take 5 and I take 3. Yeah, remember it's negative. That negative, I snuck in there, it's pink. I changed the colors because a lot of people were getting confused earlier about why I changed it to negative, but it's because we're subtracting. And then I bring down my next term. That was my next step after we found the remainder. Now you should always have, if you have two terms here, you should always have two terms here. That's another way to know when it's time to bring down the next one. So now that we have that, we are looking here, here, and here. So again, we're thinking about it as division. So negative 8x divided by x. Well, don't the x's just cancel? And it equals negative 8. So this is negative 8. And again, we multiply. Negative 8 times x is negative 8x. Negative 8 times positive 3 is negative 24. Then what do? We subtract, but this would be a double negative, which makes it a. This would be a double negative, which also makes it positive. And what happens to both of them? They both cancel, and I have a remainder of 0. So what is my final answer? Look at the top. X minus 8. Now, can you check these in your calculator? Yes. Some of them are a little weird to check in your calculator because some of them are going to have a remainder. Don't freak out. It's not that bad. But if you come here, you can type what's given to you in Y1. Alpha Y equals enter. So x squared minus 5x minus 24 over x plus 3. And you can type your answer in Y2, which we said was x minus 8. And when you go to the table, everything in the Y1 and Y2 should match, do they? Yes. Now, you will see sometimes an error, but usually only on the one that's a fraction. There it is. Okay, don't let that bother you. It's just because you cannot have a denominator of 0. And if I were to plug in x is negative 3, wouldn't that have a denominator of 0? That's why that's there. So don't let a single error bother you. Okay, that's why that's there. Okay, but you can check these in your calculator, which is a big deal on your test. Yes? Cool. Okay, so let's look at example 4. Okay, this one is written weird, but it's still division because anything with a negative exponent means it's on the wrong side of the fraction. So I'm going to take this guy and I have to move it to the bottom. And now it's technically to the positive first power. Do you have to put a positive 1 exponent? No. So look, you're just dividing that by that. Okay, so we're going to set it up just like before. Horse stays outside. Cowboy goes inside. Okay, and we start at the same place. First term. It's going to be the first term of your answer. So now I'm going to talk about it as multiplication. X times what gives you x squared? X times x gives you x squared. Okay, so then I multiply. X times x is x squared. X times negative 4 is negative 4x. Now what do? By doing what? Subtracting. So subtract, this becomes plus. Now the first term should always zero out, which it did. X squared minus x squared is 0. Negative 11x plus 4x is negative 7x. Now what do? Bring down the negative 3. You're exactly right. So now we're focusing on the x, the negative 7x, and the second term of the solution. Okay, so x times what gives you negative 7x? Negative 7. Again, you could think about it as division. Negative 7x divided by x. X's cancel equals negative 7. Okay, and then we multiply. So negative 7 times x is negative 7x. Negative 7 times negative 4 is actually positive 28. Now I have to subtract. Well, two negatives makes a positive. Positive and negative make a negative. My first term has to zero out, and it does. But my second term doesn't, and I get negative 31, and I don't have anything else to bring down. So this is what we call a remainder. Okay, this is your remainder, and this is the secret about remainders. You could write minus, but we're going to always do plus so we don't get confused when sometimes there's more than one term. So we're going to put a plus and a fraction bar every time. Okay, your remainder goes on top, and your divisor, what you divided by, goes on bottom, x minus 4. So my answer is x minus 7 plus negative 31 over x minus 4. Now again, you could type this in your calculator and check it. I would type it as a fraction and not with a negative 1, because if you type it with the negative 1 and then with a fraction, you're going to have decimal answers and then fraction answers, and it's going to be hard to tell if your y1 and y2 match. Okay? Any questions there? Okay, we're going to skip number 5 because it gets a little repetitive, and we're going to do number 6. Okay, if you look at number 6, we got to check the top. Well, it has a degree of 4, degree of 3, degree of 2, degree of 1, degree of 0. So it was not missing anything. However, we already talked about how the bottom was missing a degree of 1, right? So when I plug in there, I need an x to the first power. What number can I put in front of that doesn't change anything? Not 1, because if I add 1, that changes something. 0. So I'm going to write this as 2x squared plus 0x minus 3. It's just a placeholder, and you'll see why we have to do that in just a second. The 0x. Remember, that's what we just talked about. You can't have a missing degree. So this was 2 and this is 0, so we needed a degree of 1. Okay, so I'm going to start just like all the other ones, even though now I have 3 terms in front. I'm going to focus on the first terms everywhere. So we can do it as division again. So 4x to the 4th divided by 2x squared. What's 4 divided by 2?
2.
2. And then what do we do with exponents?
Minus, wouldn't that be
Subtract. So what's 4 minus 2? 2. X squared. So we have 2x squared. Now what do I do? Multiply. 2x squared times 2x squared is 4x to the 4th. 2x squared times 0x. Well, what's anything times 0? So is it okay if I just put a 0? Yes. And then 2x squared times negative 3 is negative 6x squared. So this is what would have happened if we didn't have that 0 there. You would have had your x squared lined up with your x cubed, and then you would not have been able to combine like terms because they're not alike. So that's why we call it a placeholder. It just holds that place open so you don't get confused and everything still lines up. Okay, so now what do we do? Subtract. So this becomes negative. Negative. 2 negatives makes it positive. 4x to the 4th minus 4x to the 4th zeroes out, which is what we wanted to happen. Negative 10x cubed minus 0 is just negative 10x cubed. Nothing changes. And then negative 4x squared plus 6x squared is positive 2x squared. Now what do I do? Bring down the 12x. And now I'm focused on the 2x squared, the negative 10x cubed, and my second term of my solution. So again, we can write it as division. Negative 10x to the 3rd divided by 2x squared. Well, what's negative 10 divided by 2? Negative 5. And then we subtract the exponent. So what's 3 minus 2? 1. So we have negative 5x is what that equaled. Okay, thank you. So now we multiply. So negative 5x times 2x squared. Well, negative 5 times 2 is negative 10. X times x squared is x to the third. Negative 5x times 0, well, anything times 0 is just 0. And then negative 5x times negative 3. Well, two negatives makes a positive, and that gives me 15x. Now what do I do? Subtract. So this becomes plus, minus, minus. Does my first term cancel?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, which should happen every time. This gives me 2x squared. And what does that leave me with? Minus 3x. Now what? Bring down my minus 8. Now I just brought down my last term, which means this is the last step. Okay, so knowing that, now I'm focused here. 2x squared, and my third term of my solution. Well, 2x squared, my inside number, divided by my outside number. Well, what's anything divided by itself? Yeah, when everything cancels, it just equals 1. So this is positive 1. So 1 times 2x squared is 2x squared. 1 times 0 is 0. And 1 times negative 3 is negative 3. And I subtract. So subtract, subtract. Well, this becomes addition. This one's a long one. This zeroes out. And I get negative 3x minus 5. And this is my remainder because I do not have another term to bring down. So I have a binomial as my remainder, which is totally fine. So again, remember, we add a plus sign and a fraction bar. Our remainder goes on top. And what we divided by goes on bottom. Now, you can write it like you did here, like it was given to you, 2x squared minus 3. You don't have to put the 0. So my final answer is 2x squared minus 5x plus 1 plus negative 3x minus 5 over 2x squared minus 3. Okay, on your practice. Number 1, 2, and 3. I'll put this back up here in just a second. Number 1, 2, and 3, what do you notice about your denominators? They're monomials. Do you have to do long division on those? No, so don't stress out those, yes? Now, as you do the other ones, I do want you to get them checked as you go, okay? I'm going to star the ones that have a remainder. Number 6 has a remainder. Make sure I'm starting the right ones. And nothing else on the front has a remainder. And then flip to the back. Everything on the back has a remainder. And number 11 is super long, so if you want to do that one, it's a bonus plus 10 points. Okay, so the other 3 have stars. And then number 11 is a bonus.